Boys, it's Shin. UFC Fight Night. Mavsar Evloev versus Lerone Murphy is this weekend in the O2 Arena in the UK. And honestly, everybody is shitting on this card. I don't think it's that bad. I don't think it's that bad. It's like last week's. It's like the Emmett Vallejos card. You know, on paper, it is not a stacked fight night in the least. You know, but the matchups are entertaining. I think this is going to be a good card. I think this is a deceptively exciting card. Obviously, you know, Luke Riley doesn't deserve to be in the co-main. MVP's here fighting a can, but like these are entertaining fights. It's just nothing that really matters for their divisions other than the main event here. Anyways, starting with the prelims, we're starting with two women's fights. That's fucking torturous. So the card starts actually starts at 1. It starts at 2 p.m., which is nice. Luana Carolina by decision and Chanel Dyer by decision as well. Moving on to the actual fights here. Shamrock versus Kareem Al-Salwadi. Salwadi just doesn't fight enough. We don't really know much about his current style. I know obviously he's got good stand-up and stuff, but doesn't he always just get knocked out? And I know people aren't high on Shamrock, but I feel like Shamrock has been much more active and, you know, already has a recent fight in the UFC, whereas El Sawadi fought, like a year or two ago, is probably going to be able to go in there and get the win. I'm thinking Shamrock takes him down and, like, ground and pound TKOs him or finds the sub or something like that. I don't rate Shamrock highly, but I don't rate him as low as everybody else does. I feel like everybody shits on. He's like a Harry Hardwick, you know, like everybody's calling him shit, but I think he's actually alright. Moving on to, oh yeah, we got some fucking heavyweights. This is either going to be the most devastating KO you've ever seen, or it's going to be the worst fucking fight of the year. Because bro, Louis Sutherland is so fucking dog shit, man. This guy literally just accepted getting taken down by Walter Walker, who he knew he was going to take him down and go for a heel hook, and tapped instantly. I think Brando Pericic is like an alright wrestler. I think he's going to take him down and get a ground and pound TKO. Louis Sutherland is a dog shit fighter. Moving on to another dog shit fighter. Literally one of the worst cans the UFC has signed over the last couple of years. Antonio Tricoli versus Montes Condratavius. Montes Condratavicius, yeah. I'm picking Montes over here by TKO. I think Antonio Tricoli, he stands very like straight, very upright, and very flat on his feet. Like he's like Strickland, but remove everything that makes him good in not getting hit. I'm picking Montes to just flatline him, or just get like an early TKO, like drops him and then like puts him out to ground and pound or something. Tricoli is not good. I don't know why he's still in the UFC. Terrible fighter. Moving on. Felipe Franco versus Mario Pinto. Now, Felipe Franco is interesting because I took a look at a couple of the fights that he's had recently, and he's one of those shitty Brazilians who fights in warehouses that you don't know where they are, like some fucking random ass like rented out warehouse in Sao Paulo, and he's fighting people that are like fucking 1 in 20 in their careers. So obviously you don't actually know if Franco can hang with the top level. I'm not saying Pinto's the top level, but Pinto's the pick just by default, because typically when you see a guy fighting out of a warehouse, they end up being really dog shit. So I'm picking Mario Pinto. Mario Pinto by knockout, round 2. Franco, like, obviously he looks good in his fights, but he's fighting bums. Pinto's actually fighting people that are heavyweights in the UFC, which isn't really anything to brag about, but you know what I mean. Pinto's established already, so it's easier to pick him. This is one of, if not the best fight on the card, other than the main event, obviously. Losine Kita versus Nathaniel Wood. I am really, really interested in seeing Kita finally get his UFC debut. Going after what happened, what was that, 2 years ago or something at this point, or a year ago with Pitbull. Nathaniel Wood has one of the weirdest chins in the UFC right now. He gets dropped in like every fight, sometimes even multiple times, but he hasn't been TKO'd. I'm picking Losine Kita to TKO Nathaniel Wood with relative ease. I know that's kind of crazy to say. I just think he's quicker. and he's got the better combos. Um, I know Nathaniel Wood is crafty. I know that he's 32 years old and almost 33, but he's nearing a point where he's had so much experience in the UFC where you can consider him a crafty vet. I'm picking Lucien Keita though, just to catch him in the first few minutes or maybe early round two and TKO him. I could see it being like an early, like people think it's an early stoppage. Um, because Nathaniel Wood, he's weird. Like he'll get dropped, but he always finds a way to recover. But I don't know. I see Keita just good head movement going in there, walking Nathaniel Wood down in round one, and probably catching him with a big 1-2 or something like that. Um, Jabbing his face off. If it gets to round two, then he does it there. I'm not too high on the Nathaniel Wood train here. Only because Keita, I think, is a much better opponent than he's fought in the last, 5 to 10 fights of his career. Moving on, Mason Jones and Axel Sola. This is a really fucking good fight. This is a really fucking good fight. Entertainment-wise, I'm telling you, this fight, the Mason Jones fight, this Danny Silva fight, like, these are all very exciting fights. This card is not as bad as people are making it seem. Mason Jones versus Axel Sola is a good fight. Axel Sola, obviously, he had his debut a few months ago against, was it Reese McKee, I think? The guy that fucking Chimaev fought. I think he TKO'd him. It was like a body to head combo or something. Really impressive though, if I'm remembering that correctly. He's a really impressive striker. Mason Jones, on the other hand, heaps of UFC experience. I believe his last fight was the Jeremy Stevens fight. Very exciting fight. Mason Jones is very good. Axel Sola was getting caught a few times by Reese McKee on the feet. Nothing crazy, but he was getting touched up. I think a guy like Mason Jones, given that, can probably catch him on the feet. Not enough to put him away, but enough to win rounds. Maybe he gets a knockdown, maybe gets some control time. I rate Mason Jones fairly highly for an unranked lightweight. I think he's one of those guys who's kind of overlooked. I know that he's on a fair bit of a streak at the moment. Yeah, so he's on 3 UFC wins in a row. Okay, yeah, he TK'd Balaji Oki. 3 UFC wins in a row. And these are kind of impressive. I know people don't rate Jeremy Stevens, but the fight was insane. It showed that he has a crazy chin. I'm picking Mason Jones by decision here. I think Axel Sola obviously has a shot. This is one of the closer fights on the card. But I just think Mason Jones is more polished. Should be a close fight, but I'm picking Mason Jones by decision. Moving on to Curtis Campbell versus Danny Silva. This is actually going to be fucking sick. Danny Silva's always in bangers. His last fight, he had a crazy fight with Kevin Vallejos, and even though he lost, it aged really well. He was able to take all of his biggest shots, and he kept going forward. Curtis Campbell, on the other hand, big power puncher from the Contender Series. I rate him fairly highly, at least his punching power. I think Danny Silva's chin, there's no way it holds up again against an opponent that hits as hard as Campbell. I'm picking Curtis Campbell by TKO. I just think Danny Silva, he leaves his chin out, and although it's very easy to pick Campbell by decision, I just have a feeling that he's going to be able to catch Danny Silva. Typically fighters that have crazy chin performances that aren't named, like Max Holloway or Marvin Vettori, they'll have a crazy fight with a guy like Vallejos, and then they'll get TKO'd by somebody who has way lesser power in their next fight. I'm just going to pick Campbell by round 2 TKO. Good pressure striker. Obviously, Danny Silva also brings the pressure in his fights, but I just see Campbell, pressuring him against the fence and probably catching him with something, with Danny Silva's hands down. Moving on. Talk about a fucking squash match, bro. Holy fuck. CLD versus Roman Dolidze. I'm picking CLD. Roman Dolidze's got a chin on him, but recently it's been giving out. CLD tends to have a bit of a moderate fight style where he kind of sometimes is a little bit boring. I'm going to pick CLD by masterclass striking decision. I think that he has the power to TKO Dolidze, but CLD does have a problem where sometimes he gets a little gun shy. Recently he's been getting some pretty crazy KOs, so I would imagine that's the case. But, it's weird. Dolidze is also a trash fighter, so I wouldn't be surprised if CLD catches him. But I'm gonna play it safe. I'm just gonna say that CLD pieces up dolidze from the outside for a majority of the fight. Maybe dolidze gets a takedown or something here or there, but CLD maybe drops him a few times. But pretty much the entire fight, I think he's just going to be pressuring him against the fence. Good jab, popping some fucking funky shit, some spin elbows and shit. Yeah, should be a pretty boring one, but it's a CLD fight, so there you go. Iwo Baranowski versus Austin Lane. If you're picking Austin Lane here, don't know what to tell you, buddy. I don't rate Iwo highly, for the record. I just think Austin Lane is arguably the worst fighter to be signed in the last few years. I just realized this is a light heavyweight fight. Austin Lane's moving down to light heavyweight. That's interesting. I don't think that'll help him in the slightest against a power puncher like Baranowski. Austin Lane has a terrible chin. He has one of the funniest flatline KO losses I've ever seen against Mario Pinto, who's fighting earlier on the card. I think Iwo is just going to go balls to the wall and slump Austin Lane out cold. There's no way the weight cut is helping Lane's chin. And Iwo is coming off of that crazy, one-rounder against Ibo Aslan in his last fight. This is a layup. It's a round one flatline KO. He's going to put Austin Lane on his face. It's going to be really funny to watch. Moving on, Sam Patterson versus Michael Venom Page. This is obviously not the matchup we wanted for Michael Venom Page, but it is low-key a layup if he can resist the grappling of Sam Patterson. Obviously Sam Patterson, he's not a 100% grappler, but I just think that he's not going to be able to stand with MVP anyway. He's going to need a takedown in this fight. Sam Patterson, he's a very tall, lanky fighter, kind of like MVP, except you take away... He's just flat-footed. Again, he's like Tricoli almost. He's a very flat-footed fighter, and he keeps his hands down constantly, and he always gets caught on the feet. I'm picking MVP to get his first UFC TKO here. Maybe even a flatline KO. MVP is going to be waiting in and out with his leg kicks and shit. He's going to be throwing up some jabs. He's going to go with that big 1-2 where he just fucking zips in, big 1-2, zips in, big 1-2. Like he's going to get like the loner Kavanaugh, He's going to hit him with that flat on the chin, put him out cold. That's what I think. Yeah, MVP, it should be an easy fight for him. It should be an easy... I don't know why the odds are minus 250. I guess because Sam Patterson can kind of offer some problems, but I'm thinking MVP just puts him out in round one or round two. Toys with him in round one, he's flicking his jab at him, landing some good kicks to the body, hitting some emotes, wins the round easily. Round two, maybe, he's doing the same thing, catches him with a big 1-2 on the way in, and that's a wrap. Moving on to Luke Riley versus Michael Aswell Jr. Michael Aswell Jr. coming off of, I believe, what is that round one TKO over Lucas Almeida, was it? Yeah, where Lucas Almeida came into the fight with a broken hand. I don't think anybody can strike with Luke Riley at this level in featherweight. I don't. I think Luke Riley has a clear wrestling disadvantage. Michael Aswell, of course, he has okay grappling, but I don't think it's at a level of a Bogdan that Luke Riley was able to get ragdolled by for a round. And even then, Bogdan he got his head spun around like a fucking owl. I'm picking Luke Riley, just a clean, round two or round three TKO or a decision. I just think I don't know if he's the cleanest striker. I wouldn't call him that, but he's definitely got enough power to keep Aswell running away. I could see this being kind of an annoying fight to watch because Aswell has a great chin on him. Luke Riley has crazy power, but I can just see Riley cracking him in the early minutes of the fight, and Aswell he feels the power and gets afraid, gets gun shy, shoots a couple times, it gets shrugged off by Riley. And Riley's just walking him down, unable to find the kill shot for the rest of the fight. Or if he does, he finds it late in the third or late in the second, somewhere in that time frame. But I'm picking Luke Riley to win this fight pretty dominantly. Moving on to the main event. This fight is one of the best fights booked right now. And not entertainment-wise, but just you rarely get a number one contender fight between guys that are 7-0, 8-0, 9-0 in the UFC fighting each other that are also undefeated in their careers. So I know that Lerone Murphy had that really controversial decision win over Santos. I don't think it was that egregious, if you ask me. I actually scored that fight for Murphy in the moment, even though I acknowledged that it was close and was probably, nearing robbery. There are ways to score that fight for Lerone Murphy. So all these people saying that Lerone Murphy is not undefeated and all that, you got to go watch the fight because you probably didn't watch the fight. It was a very close fight. Um, Mobsar, on the other hand, he's had his fair share of robberies as well. That people are saying, the Arnold Allen fight, which, yeah, it was very close, but again, it wasn't a robbery. Evloev didn't clearly lose that fight. Um, and then, the Aljo fight, which I think he won 2-1 very clearly. I thought it was 1-1 going into the third, and when Aljo went for a takedown and got reversed, that's when the fight turned, and then Evloev just took over. I think Evloev is going to have a very good performance over Lerone Murphy here. I, call me crazy, can see Evloev finding a TKO over Lerone Murphy. Whether it's on the ground or it's on the feet, I think he has deceptive power. He hurts everybody that he fights. It's just he's unable to finish them. He hurt Arnold Allen, and Arnold Allen has a granite chin. You know what I mean? He hurt Diego Lopez multiple times, and Diego Lopez has a really good chin. These are moments in his fight career that people are kind of just ignoring. Sure, he's a decision machine. He's had a few good fights, though, and he's had a few moments where he's nearly gotten good fighters out of there. Lerone Murphy, he's been dropped a few times in the UFC. He's been dropped by Dan Ige. I can see Evloev catching him, but regardless, I'm going to be picking, my main pick is Evloev by decision. I just think that he's a much better fighter. I don't see Lerone Murphy, dealing with Mobsar's grappling. I see, obviously in the Aaron Pico fight, he had really good takedown defense, Lerone Murphy, for the first couple minutes, and he was looking pretty good. But Evloev is just on a different level when it comes to the wrestling. He's no Aaron Pico. I see the first rounds, he's pressuring him well, puts Murphy on the back foot. Evloev's going to have a moment, whether or not he catches him or he just times a good double leg, and he's going to dominate the entire first round on the ground. Lerone's going to be tricky, off of his back, I believe. I'm sure he'll have some good sweeps and stuff, as he usually does. But Evloev's top pressure should be enough to just lock in the first few rounds, kind of in the same fashion. It shouldn't be too exciting, but it will probably be fairly impressive. I am picking Evloev by decision, though. I do think he'll have his moments in this fight. I just think that he'll end up having a boring decision win, a dominant, boring decision win, where Murphy just can't really get anything started. Maybe he even catches Evloev and lands a big shot, but you know how these fights go. Whenever these Russians get caught at all, their survival instincts just kick in, and they just go for the craziest double leg of all time, and they try to suck your dick. Like Umar did it against Mario Batista. Like all these guys, it's unfortunate, but that's just how it goes. Don't think for 1 second that I want Evloev to win this fight. It's just how I think it's going to go. And I think he's going to go on and get a title shot and probably lose to Volk. That's what I think. Yeah. It's a good fight night. It's probably going to be topped by a pretty boring main event, but regardless, it's a great matchup. Yeah, this is Evloev versus Murphy. After this, we have the Adesanya Piper card. That should be fun. Yeah, this has been Chind. Thank you guys for watching. If you have any thoughts about my picks, leave a comment, leave a like. See you in the next one.